Hey, this is Tyler. Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me on this journey and adventure. In our last episode, we embarked on the first part of our quest for identity, exploring how powerful forces shape who we become. We discussed beauty, how it moves us profoundly, even while its unfairness can leave deep wounds. We explored the role of adventure and risk taking, recognizing that identity is often forged in the balance between the stable, straight and narrow, and the enticing pull of the unknown. We dove into the influence of neurochemicals, those invisible biological forces like dopamine and serotonin, that subtly yet profoundly guide our behaviors and emotional landscapes. And finally, we recognized the critical reality that we literally become what we repeatedly do, consume, and engage with, emphasizing the importance of intentionally crafting our habits and choices. And to tie it all together, we introduced my concept of life maps, a practical tool to help clarify and intentionally navigate your journey towards deeper authenticity and self awareness. So, today, in part two of this exploration, we're going to dive deeper. Identity formation isn't shaped by just our biology, experience, and habits. It's also profoundly influenced by deeper philosophical and psychological dimensions. We're going to examine essential concepts that help answer some of life's most fundamental questions. First, we'll look at free will and agency, how your identity emerges not just from circumstances, but from your courageous ability to make deliberate choices. Next, we'll explore intentions and interests, clarifying how knowing what genuinely moves you, what authentically resonates with your spirit, can guide you towards a deeper understanding of what you truly want. We'll then delve into the powerful concept of logos, which is a guiding truth or principle by which you orient your life. We'll discuss the concept of the middle way, embracing both and thinking rather than restrictive either or paradigms. And finally, we'll delve into truth, love, and consciousness, drawing on and revisiting Viktor Frankl's transformative triad: what you do, your relationships, and how you suffer. Today's episode is an invitation to journey deeply inward, to ask yourself two of life's most powerful questions. Who am I truly? And what do I genuinely, deeply want? I'm excited for you as we explore these profound aspects of identity and purpose. This is where your personal adventure becomes even richer, deeper, and more authentically yours. And with that, let's dive in. Free will is one of the most profound and sometimes intimidating concepts we encounter when trying to understand who we truly are. At its core, free will is your fundamental capacity to consciously make choices, to deliberately choose paths that shape your identity, your life, and your destination. Yet, when we talk about free will, we inevitably face a challenging tension: the apparent contradiction between biological determinism, our genes, our neurochemicals, our upbringing, and our ability to freely and genuinely choose our actions. Science reveals that much of who we are comes from factors beyond our immediate control. Our DNA, our neurochemical predispositions, or even the family and culture into which we're born. These factors undeniably shape our decisions, raising a challenging question: could I really have done otherwise? This question has haunted philosophers and thinkers for centuries. On the surface, it seems simple. Could I have chosen differently in any given moment? However, I find great insight in the concept of computational irreducibility. It's a powerful idea that says that the universe, and therefore we ourselves in the universe, are fundamentally too complex to predict. To know exactly what I would have done differently at any moment in time would require simulating every aspect of myself and the entire universe around me precisely and perfectly. Such a simulation would literally need to be as vast and intricate as the universe itself. And while we might estimate probabilities of what we might do next, I don't think they can ever be truly certain. The future remains fundamentally open ended and unpredictable. And this complexity, this irreducible uncertainty, cracks open the door to genuine libertarian free will, true freedom in a deeply unpredictable universe. But here's something important that I've discovered in my own reflections on this. Even if the universe were deterministic, free will still holds deep, meaningful significance. Free will doesn't have to mean just the ability to choose otherwise in a particular moment. Rather, it's about exercising self control, rational deliberation, and consciously aligning your actions with your deeper values and intentions. Moreover, I believe free will expands as our consciousness expands. Drawing from integrated information theory and global workspace theory, as we talked about in episode 3 on consciousness, it seems plausible that the richer our conscious experience, the more expansive our ability to meaningfully exercise free will becomes higher. Higher awareness gives us greater clarity, more possibilities, and increased agency over our decisions. It's also crucial to recognize the role that influence plays in shaping our choices. Imagine if someone held a gun to your head. Your free will would essentially vanish, replaced by immediate survival instinct. But not all influences are this immediate or violent. Consider your family, your friends, your culture, or the subtle pressures of marketing and advertising. Each of these influences affects your choice along a kind of Gaussian curve, very strongly when close and personal, and much weaker as it becomes more distant or abstract. Recognizing this spectrum of influence helps us understand that our free will is always exercised within a web of external pressures. Our agency isn't absolute, but it is real, powerful, and meaningful, especially as we become aware of these forces and consciously respond to them. My personal view on free will is nuanced. I lean towards compatibilism, the belief that free will is fully compatible with determinism, with a limited but genuine libertarian free will nestled within. Here's the subtlety. I acknowledge the philosophical dilemma that deterministic factors always underline our choices, but I actively choose to believe in free will. Why? Studies show that individuals who believe in free will experience greater well being, motivation, and life satisfaction. Even the most vocal proponents of hard determinism, like Sam Harris or Robert Sapolsky, can't help but live as if free will exists, even if it's an illusion. Free will holds people morally accountable, enabling them to treat others as responsible agents and to make choices themselves as if they have agency. This isn't a mere contradiction, it's an acknowledgement that believing in free will is deeply evolutionarily advantageous to us and all creatures. And ultimately, I believe in free will because it profoundly improves my quality of life, my sense of purpose, and my authenticity. Even though reaching this conviction required tremendous personal suffering, struggle, and existential wrestling. But here's the critical point. Embracing free will demands courage. Choosing agency isn't easy. It involves taking radical responsibility for your life, decisions, and identity. It's far easier to surrender to fatalism, to believe your life is predetermined, mapped out by biology, circumstances, or fate. Yet, the courageous choice, the one that truly defines who you become, is precisely this: to consciously, intentionally decide who you are going to be. Choosing to believe you have agency means accepting that your identity is not simply handed to you. Instead, your identity becomes something you actively, consciously construct. This choice takes bravery because it requires acknowledging that you and no one else bears the responsibility for who you become. This is precisely why free will is so powerful. It gives you the tools to shape yourself, the clarity to define your purpose, and the courage to live authentically. Your decision to embrace free will isn't just philosophical, it's deeply existential. It shapes every aspect of your journey and directly impacts the person you will become. Potentially the only aspect of true libertarian free will is that we have our perspective and the ability to choose our perspective. So today, ask yourself, do you have the courage to choose, to fully embrace your agency, and to change your perspectives, and to consciously shape the narrative story of who you truly are? I want to take a slight side tangent here and talk about some of the great studies that I've seen done on free will and to highlight how I actually don't think those are problems. So, in wrestling with free will, we come upon the narrative that is pretty common in that there's a game that we can play, whether we push a left button or a right button. And that when we put on electrodes onto someone's head, we can actually figure out which choice they're going to make before they consciously understand which choice they've made. And this is repeated in countless experiments. So I want to highlight where the narrative has gotten stolen from free will and why it's actually not that dangerous. And so the first aspect is that we make a choice internal to us, and then that choice is then reflected in our actions. And in this specific instance, it's reflected in the movement, like a choice to go with a left button or a right button. Now, people point to this and go, you have no free will because you didn't become consciously aware until you had already made the action. And I think that that's a fundamental misinterpretation of what's going on. Let me explain. So, the first aspect is that while we're growing and we're learning, we're constantly offloading functionality from our conscious perspective into programmed routines in our body. And that is biologically imperative. If we were consciously focusing on everything at all times, it would be utterly overwhelming. And so we offload lots of that processing to subconscious routines that just play themselves out. The ability to move your body is a offloaded function that has happened ever since your childhood when you first discovered like your hands and your feet and that they could move. And we offloaded that function to go, oh, I can move my hands, I can move my feet. I'm going to move that to a secondary subconscious process. And then what happens is that we then tell ourselves a story about making those choices. But fundamentally, our agency and our ability of who we are to make those choices is up to us. We're the ones who decide whether we lift our hands into the air or not. Now, I may have done that and then told myself a story about it, but fundamentally, the true part is that as a conscious agent, I have the freedom to choose to do so. And that is where my alignment with compatibility is fairly straightforward. And then as we navigate into that libertarian free will, what is inside of my head is something that I uniquely have control over. And due to the irreducible complexity argument, I know that the future is uncertain. And so I could have chosen otherwise if a different path played itself out. And that's what I'm focusing on in the true libertarian free will. We always have the opportunity to make a choice otherwise. It gives us the opportunity to change our future, to reinterpret our past, and to focus on something that is internal to us that we have control over. All right, so that wraps up my section on free will. In the next section, let's cover intentions and interests. So, intention is one of the most powerful and yet subtle forces shaping our identities. At its core, intention is your underlying motivation, why you do what you do. It's not simply about the actions you take, but the deeper purpose and reasoning behind those actions. In fact, intention is so foundational that our legal systems, cultures, and societies place enormous importance on it. Consider the justice system. We distinguish different actions based entirely on intent. Murder, manslaughter, and accidental harm differ primarily because of intentionality. The very same action, taking someone's life, can result in vastly different consequences depending solely on the intention behind it. That's how profoundly intention shapes not just our identity, but also the world around us. Yet intention is complicated because it's not always transparent, even to ourselves. We humans have a remarkable capacity for self deception. Often, the truth of our intentions can be so uncomfortable, painful, or confronting that we lie to ourselves, burying our true motivations beneath layers of self justification and rationalization. Maybe we convince ourselves we're helping others out of pure altruism, when secretly we're seeking validation, praise, or power. Or perhaps we justify destructive choices with noble sounding reasons, afraid to admit to ourselves the darker or more selfish intentions at play. Understanding our true intentions demands rigorous honesty and self awareness. It's a courageous act of self confrontation. But without uncovering our genuine motivations, we risk living an inauthentic life, disconnected from who we truly want to be. Intention is the internal compass by which we navigate life. If that compass is distorted by self deception, we'll inevitably find ourselves lost, confused, or deeply unhappy. Yet when our intentions align with authenticity, when our internal purpose aligns clearly with our actions, we live with integrity and wholeness, becoming who we genuinely desire to be. Alongside intention, another key to understanding our identity is found in our interests. Interests are deeply fascinating because they serve as signals pointing towards authentic, hidden dimensions of who we truly are. Interests are often intersections of several factors: natural talents, external praise and validation, personal admiration or affection. Yet sometimes they're entirely mysterious, seemingly unrelated to anything obvious about ourselves. Think about your own personal interests for a moment. Some probably make clear sense. You excel at a skill or talent, people praise you for it, and naturally your interest grows. But what about those interests that arise unexpectedly, seemingly out of nowhere? The hobbies, passions, or ideas that grip you spontaneously, pulling you in some new and unexpected direction? These interests, though mysterious, reveal deeper truths about your identity and often provide clues towards your life's purpose. Interest serves as guideposts, signals that there's something worth exploring, something worth pursuing deeper. They are invitations towards authentic self discovery, often pointing us towards our purpose before we consciously realize it. In this way, interests are crucial because they encourage us towards action, experimentation, and exploration, each step revealing further layers of our authentic selves. But how do we practically discover our true intentions and interests? First, through rigorous self reflection. We must regularly pause and courageously ask ourselves, why am I doing this? What's really driving me? The answers may be uncomfortable, but they reveal truth about who you really are. Keep pushing past the easy justifications until you encounter genuine honesty. Second, engage actively with experimentation. Interests often emerge through action, exploration, and deliberate curiosity. Try new things. Be open to spontaneous attractions to new ideas and observe carefully what grips your attention. Don't dismiss something just because it seems impractical or unrelated to your current self image. The deepest interests often emerge precisely from unexpected places. And lastly, integrate these insights intentionally into your life map, aligning your intentions and interests with clear goals and actions. Doing so ensures your journey of identity formation is deeply authentic, purposeful, and driven by meaningful truths rather than superficial expectations. And your intentions form the bedrock of identity clarity. They reveal your authentic desires, hidden motivations, and the genuine path you want to walk. Discovering them is an ongoing journey, one that requires courage, honesty, and intentionality. But as you embrace that journey, you'll find that each step takes you closer to a deeply authentic identity, one grounded in genuine truth, meaningful passion, and courageous awareness. So today, reflect honestly. What are my true intentions behind the actions I'm taking? And what interests am I naturally drawn towards? Interests that, if embraced, could reveal deeper truths about who I am and who I genuinely want to become. Next, we're going to talk about logos, or aligning yourself with the guiding principle. At the heart of our quest to understand identity lies a powerful ancient concept known as logos. In ancient Greek philosophy, logos wasn't simply a word, it represented the ultimate principle of order, rationality, and meaning that structured the entire cosmos. Logos was understood as the fundamental truth or pattern underlying everything, the very essence that gives life coherence, purpose, and direction. When we apply this profound concept to our own lives, logos becomes something deeply personal, our foundational guiding principle, our most meaningful mission, the core values or virtues we choose to live by. Your personal logos is essentially your moral compass, your truth articulated in a clear guiding statement or philosophy that consistently influences how you think, decide, and act. Think about your logos as a deeply personal compass, one that always points towards authenticity, clarity, and genuine meaning. This guiding principle is crucial because it aligns your intentions, the underlying motivations we discussed earlier, with tangible actions. It's not enough simply to know what you desire. Logos helps you ensure your intentions translate directly into authentic, meaningful behavior day after day, year after year. But here's an important nuance. While intentionality provides the direction and purpose behind your actions, wisdom still sits at the highest level of logos. Wisdom is that master virtue, the capacity to choose the right virtue at the right moment for the right reason. It's wisdom that clarifies, refines, and elevates your logos, transforming a general sense of purpose into precise, meaningful guidelines that shape both your daily choices and your long term trajectory. Clearly articulated values, your logos, are incredibly powerful because they provide clarity. They cut through confusion, chaos, and ambiguity, revealing exactly where you need to go and how you should behave. Think of the most authentic, deeply respected people you've encountered. They're often individuals who consistently embody a clear, compelling logos. Their decisions reflect unwavering commitment to their values, and their identities radiate integrity, purpose, and coherence. To harness this power for yourself, consider on reflecting carefully on your own logos. Ask yourself clearly, purely, and honestly, what do I truly value in life? What guiding principle or mission do I consistently follow, regardless of circumstances? What values will guide my choices when faced with difficulty, uncertainty, or temptation? And what could I do that I would do that would make my life better? Consider taking the time to write down your answers. As we discovered before, the written word has power over you when you make it explicit. Keep your logos visible on your phone, your mirror, your journal, somewhere you see it daily. Because the truth is, when life storms inevitably hit, your clearly defined logos becomes an incredible anchor. It grounds your identity in clarity, providing a consistent and reliable reference point for navigating life's challenges. Aligning yourself intentionally with your logos doesn't merely guide you, it fundamentally shapes who you become. Over time, your identity is transformed, continually refined, and elevated by the daily practice of living your deepest truths. You become a person of integrity, clarity, and purpose, not by accident, but by consciously choosing to embody your logos in every choice and every action. So today, consider taking the first step to defining your personal logos. Decide intentionally the principles you consistently follow and align your actions with your values. Even small steps move you closer to the deepest, most authentic expression of who you truly are. Next, let's cover the middle way, embracing both and thinking. There's a tendency in our culture, and perhaps even built into human nature itself, to see life through binary lenses. We instinctively frame questions in terms of either or, good or bad, right or wrong, safe or risky, structured or chaotic. But the deeper we delve into the complexity of identity, the more we realize that life's richest and most authentic answers don't fit neatly into these tidy categories. Instead, They exist in a nuanced balance, the powerful space in between. This philosophical idea, famously articulated by Buddhist thought, is known as the middle way. The middle way isn't simply about moderation or compromise, it's a deeply sophisticated understanding that truth and authenticity often lie not at extremes, but in carefully balancing seemingly contradictory forces. The Buddha himself illustrated this idea vividly. He began life in absolute luxury and comfort, shielded entirely from suffering. Later, he swung to the opposite extreme, pursuing intense asceticism and deprivation, believing suffering itself held the key to enlightenment. Neither extreme brought clarity or fulfillment. It was only when he embraced the middle way, a life that acknowledged both pleasure and discipline, joy and seriousness, that he found enlightenment. This balance allowed him a deeper integration of who he was and how he could meaningfully live in the world. The reason this idea matters so deeply in our own quest for identity is because real authenticity rarely arises from rigid extremes. True identity, true self understanding, is often found in holding competing ideas, desires, and tensions simultaneously. When you live at the extremes, entirely structured or entirely spontaneous, completely virtuous or constantly rebellious, you limit your ability to fully explore and integrate the complexities of who you are. Consider some real life examples. Imagine someone torn between the stability of a virtuous, structured career and the call towards unpredictable adventure. The either or mindset might force them to choose either stay safe, sacrificing passion, or abandon everything for uncertainty. The middle way allows something far richer, embracing both virtue and adventure. It means building a structured life infused with deliberate moments of meaningful risk, exploration, and creative spontaneity. Or consider relationships. Often we think, I either maintain my individuality and autonomy or I surrender myself fully in relationships and risk losing my identity. But authentic connection requires precisely at the intersection of both independence and intimacy. Healthy relationships, romantic or otherwise, are about holding this tension consciously, simultaneously being yourself and part of something larger, both independent and interdependent. This nuanced balance, it isn't easy. It requires constant mindfulness and reflection. It means acknowledging complexity rather than retreating into simplistic solutions. But the reward is profound. You build an identity that's vibrant, adaptable, and integrated, embracing the fact that chaos and order, yin and yang, need to both exist in harmony. Practically embracing the middle way starts with awareness. Notice the extremes in your own life, areas where you think in terms of rigid either or dichotomies. Perhaps it's work versus family, rationality versus emotion, structure versus spontaneity, Republican versus Democrat. Once you recognize these extremes, consciously explore how you might integrate both aspects instead of rejecting one entirely. Here's how you might do this in practice. If you're typically rigid, structured, and disciplined, intentionally seek moments of spontaneous adventure, creativity, or unpredictability into your week. Embrace activities outside your comfort zone, not to abandon discipline, but to integrate adventure alongside it. Conversely, if your life tilts towards chaos, spontaneity, and impulsiveness, consciously establish routines and rituals, small daily habits to create order and stability. This isn't losing freedom, it's enhancing it, providing a structured foundation upon which your adventurous spirit can truly thrive. By intentionally practicing the middle way, you discover a profound, richer experience of identity. You stop boxing yourself into simplistic categories or tribes or tribal knowledge. You acknowledge life's complexity, recognizing the truth in contradictions, and ultimately integrating those contradictions into a beautifully nuanced self. This is wisdom. The middle way isn't the easiest path, but it's unquestionably the richest. It invites you towards a deeper, fuller experience of identity, embracing the beauty and complexity of who we are. And it's foundational in our evolutionary journey. As we've discovered before, the ability to sit on the edge of order and chaos is what pushes us towards further enlightenment on our path towards the omega point. Next, let's talk about the three areas that I believe are fundamental to this journey, and that is truth, love, and consciousness. At the heart of our exploration into identity lies something incredibly profound, something that connects deeply with the very purpose of existence itself. I believe deeply that the universe is pointing towards three fundamental pillars within the omega point, and those are truth, love, and consciousness, with wisdom as the integrating virtue at the apex. These aren't just my ideas. They map directly onto Viktor Frankl's transformative triad of human experience and identity formation, as we previously talked about. But I want to revisit Frankl, as I haven't seen anyone posit truth, love, and consciousness as the primary objectives aligned with evolutionary and human desires for meaning and purpose. Frankl, if you remember, whose insights arose from unimaginable suffering and loss in concentration camps during World War II, identified three dimensions where humans find meaning. First is creative values, what you do. Second is experiential values, your relationships. And the third is attitudinal values, or how you interpret suffering. These correspond beautifully and powerfully to my ideas of truth, love, and consciousness. Truth represents your conscious actions, purpose, and pursuit of meaningful work. The authentic pursuit of clarity, integrity, and significance. Your identity here is shaped by aligning your actions with the deepest truths you hold, by consciously choosing work or creative efforts that resonate with your core self. When your life and actions embody truth, authenticity emerges naturally. You become a person whose identity isn't hidden or fragmented, but unified and transparent. What you do and who you genuinely are become indistinguishable. Truth demands courage and clarity, guiding your decisions towards work and actions that hold authentic significance. And when truth becomes what you do, you become aligned with the omega point. Love, equally foundational to identity. Love, in the deepest sense, defines us through connection, intimacy, and community. Your identity here isn't isolated, it's relationally defined. Frankl's experiential values highlight the profound significance of relationships. Meaningful encounters with others, authentic intimacy, and genuine community. Your identity isn't merely personal or solitary, it flourishes only within connection. The people you choose to love and who love you in return, friends, family, mentors, and communities, form the emotional and relational structure of your identity. Love shapes who you become as it defines the way you see yourself and others. Love is the foundation upon which we build our relational selves, reminding us that identity is always a shared, interconnected experience. And finally, we have consciousness. Consciousness represents your capacity to courageously confront and find meaning in life's inevitable suffering, loss, and ultimately the end of consciousness itself. Frankl called this attitudinal values, recognizing the immense power we have to choose our response to suffering, even in the most painful and uncontrollable circumstances. This is where true courage, resilience, and wisdom emerge. Consciousness, your subjective experience and deep awareness of life's finitude, struggles, and inevitable suffering, defines your identity profoundly, as it is your difference between life and death. How you consciously respond to suffering shapes you in ways nothing else can. It's not merely about enduring pain, it's about finding meaning, dignity, and purpose even in your darkest moments. It's choosing consciously and bravely how you face pain, how you integrate it into your story, and how you emerge wiser and stronger from it all the way to your death and the absence of your consciousness. When you integrate these three pillars, truth, love, and consciousness, you create a complete framework of identity formation. Each pillar complements and enhances the others. Truth ensures authenticity in your actions. Love grounds your identity relationally, creating community and meaningful connection. Consciousness provides the courage and wisdom to face suffering, which deepens authenticity and compassion. The apex of this triad sits wisdom, the master virtue that integrates all three. Wisdom is knowing when to prioritize truth, when to lean into love, and when to face suffering courageously. Wisdom is the discernment required to harmonize all these dimensions, guiding your choices with clarity and compassion. Next, let's step into clarifying who you are. As we've journeyed through these profound concepts, free will, intention, interests, and balance, wisdom of the middle way, it's important to now ground these ideas in practical reflection. Let's step back and apply these insights directly to your life. To do this, we're going to reflect carefully on two critical questions that anchor our journey of identity formation. First, who am I? This deceptively simple question carries enormous weight. Consider what we've discussed about free will and agency, your capacity to make conscious, intentional choices despite the forces of biology, culture, and circumstances around you. Consider all the aspects of previous episodes we've talked about, your values, your virtues, your upbringing. I guarantee that you are an incredibly interesting person and that your life has a deep and important meaning. But discovering that for yourself is a journey that you need to take. It's a story, it's a narrative, and it's nested in a cosmic drama that is unfolding. And you can choose to make that story yours. You are the author of your own story, not what someone else says, not what someone wants you to be, but something that comes genuinely from inside of you. Your true self and who you truly could be. It's not an easy story, but it is a creation story, and it is a hero's journey story. So whether you're on that journey now or you're stepping into that journey into the future, I'm proud of you for asking, who am I? It's a beautiful, holy, and profound question. Second, what do I truly want? Your genuine interests and clear intentions reveal deeper layers of who you are. This question asks you to clarify your personal logos, your guiding principles that shape your identity. Recall in our exploration into how intention profoundly shapes your identity, just as it shapes actions in society, law, and relationships. Remember also from previous episodes the role that interests, virtues, values, evolution, and the will to life play in shaping what you truly want. These questions aren't trivial. They serve as markers on your life map, guiding your intentional journey towards deeper identity and clarity. Writing down your reflections transforms abstract ideas into tangible self-understanding, reinforcing your emerging identity through conscious clarity. Consider taking this seriously, as these insights can become powerful reference points along your ongoing journey. So, in conclusion, as we wrap up today's exploration, let's pause to solidify some insights we've uncovered about identity, intentionality, and authenticity. We began by clarifying and exploring the profound power of free will and agency, discovering that despite the tension between determinism and choice, meaningful agency exists. Choosing to embrace the idea of free will itself empowers us, offering greater authenticity and fulfillment in our lives. We then examined how our intentions and genuine interests reveal deep truths about ourselves. Our core intentions profoundly shape our identity, especially when we're honest enough to confront and understand them, no matter how uncomfortable that honesty may be. Then we introduced the philosophical concept of logos, your deeply held guiding principles and values. Logos is crucial because it provides clarity, aligning your daily choices with your deepest truths, shaping who you genuinely become over time. Then we explored the critical importance of the middle way, embracing both and thinking rather than simplistic either or dichotomies. By integrating contradictions rather than rejecting them, we built an identity that's rich, nuanced, and profoundly authentic. And finally, we reflected on the three pillars that I like to call them: truth, love, and consciousness, and we connected them to Viktor Frankl's framework of identity. But identity isn't something you fully resolve in a single reflection. It's dynamic, ongoing, and a lifelong quest of continuous discovery and growth. In the next episode, we'll expand our focus outward, closing up this series and shifting from the individual self to the identities and relationships to others, the tribe, the community, society, and culture we inhabit. We'll explore how collective narratives, moral instincts, and the stories we share profoundly shape our quest for meaning and purpose. So, again, thanks for joining me on this journey and adventure. I'm glad you're here. I look forward to our next encounter, and good luck on your own journey.